recording the video now just because it's there. Amazing. Welcome. Okay, I'm gonna move actually on this side. I'm trying to like get sun, but then also not get too much sun. Do you know what I mean? Like I wanna.
I'm literally sat in front of because my room's the front room of downstairs.
Yeah.
So much sun on me.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
amazing.
literally out my window as well.
I feel like I should probably tie this up maybe, so it's not like just flapping around. I've got ombre
Those are
curtains,
cool
guys.
curtains. I was
Mate,
gonna
they're
say like
fucking
those are
sick.
sick
They're
curtains.
ombres. They're ombre. Look, I got a new rug as well. Look how fat it is.
Oh, sick. Where'd you get that from?
I got it from IKEA. Oh shit! Sorry, I'm knocking everything over. Gang.
Basically dropped tea all over my MacBook, which is now dead.
Oh, have you? You put your tea on your MacBook?
I'm using my friend's MacBook right now. Thank God.
Oh, really?
I wouldn't be able to do any uni work.
Oh, bless you. Oh, bless you. Okay. Sorry, everything's recorded. We're all good. Should I start? Hi guys, and welcome to episode 5. Whoop, 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 whoop. This is DM Talks. I'm your host, Sarah Dario, and DM Talks is a podcast that aims to promote well-being and assist healing, whether that be physically, mentally, or spiritually. Ultimately, we just want to be seen in our entirety, and this podcast hopes to show listeners how multifaceted they are. We're all the center of our own universe, so why don't we do more to better our own existence? So, hi listeners, welcome. I am so excited to do this episode today. I'm joined by two amazing people. One of them actually you've already seen before. One of them is back. She's got some more information that she wants to share with us. It's Ella. Say hey, Ella.
Hello. Thank you for having me back again. I'm excited.
Ella, we needed to have you back. You came in and you spoke your truth. You said your mind, and it was just so beautiful to like listen to what you have to say on this important subject to all of us. You know. I'm also joined by another guest. She is a baddie. She is a force, an academic, everything. Say hello to the world, Hibbs.
Stop gassing me, you.
Honey, I have to.
Also,
I have to.
Busted up nails. Quarantine is doing this to a girl right now.
Oh my! Have you seen those memes?
Look at my nails.
Fucking hilarious.
Mate, look at mine. It's so bad.
How are we today? How's your Wednesday?
Yeah, it's okay. It's still
what have you guys been doing today?
It's
quarantine.
It's my housemate's birthday.
Oh yes.
Happy birthday, Tom.
Yeah,
shout out Tom. Happy birthday, Tom.
24 today.
Oh,
almost quarter of a century old.
I'm gonna be 25 in like 9 days. So.
Oh my goodness.
Ladies and
really?
gents.
Oh my god.
I'm basically dead. So.
Do you have any plans of celebrating your birthday at home? Well, celebrating your birthday in quarantine?
It's really sad because all my housemates have gone home, and like I can't even go. I need to make sure I'm quarantined here. And I've got so many deadlines all at the end of this month, so I can't even like celebrate.
Oh, well, maybe give yourself a day. Wait, do you have a bath?
No, I don't even have a bath. Like that's the
Oh, damn. I was going to say, give yourself the day off, drink rosé or like white wine, something like
I'm still gonna do all those things.
Truthful.
I'm just alone doing it, which is even sadder. But you know what? I said this to all my friends. I was like, I'm not going to celebrate my 25th this year. I'm just going to continue being 24 until the next year. Like,
I think that's like a good thing to do, because then you'll get to like 27, 28 or like 30 and people will be like, how old is Hibbs? Like, she's so mystical. Like, is she 30? Is she 21?
What's her age? Like,
I know. It's like, I swear she's been here for like ever. Like, how old is she? Does anyone know this mystical woman? Like,
mystical, magical woman. Oh, wait. So I thought, let's delve straight into the podcast. I'm so excited to chat with you guys, because I know that we've spoken about this before. We really wanted to get into the nitty and gritty of different aspects of feminism. However, I like it because we're all from different like walkways of life, so I think we're gonna have like a really interesting like conversation, because it's just gonna be like quite diverse, you know.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, I'm excited as well because I think at Halloween, me and Hibbs just bumped into each other at a party, and I was about to go home, and we literally spoke for like 4 hours. And like literally all of my friends left because they thought I'd got in an Uber to go home because I was too drunk. And then like they walked down into the kitchen, they're like, "I thought you'd left like 4 hours ago."
Oh, that's so funny.
Like, women, like
as well, and like.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Down the stairs, and
yeah,
I
saw that.
What?
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was ridiculous. And then you just see me and Ella just talking about feminism in the kitchen, like really, really fucked. It was.
I mean, all the most important conversations happen in the kitchen at 4 a.m. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that just British culture?
We're like, we'll have another cig, and then it got to like 6 cigs later, and I was just like, right, I'm becoming white.
It then just gets to that phase of like, we need photos now to like capture this moment.
Oh my goodness, that's one thing that we were gonna do. Oh my goodness, like one of my housemates who Ella and Hibbs both know was just saying how busy like life is gonna be after quarantine. Like even the little things like taking pictures of the girls' toilets. Like, yes, can you imagine?
But also I'm kind of terrified because it's gonna be everywhere's gonna be packed.
Everywhere's going to be packed and everyone's going to be on it for about a week. Like I'm expecting not to sleep for 5 days.
I'm gonna not go out. I'm gonna avoid it. No, I'm gonna go out, but I'm just gonna chill with my friends. Like I think I'm not gonna like be too much like, oh, I want to hit out this pie, I want to do this, I want to do that. I think I'm liking this, you know, still life, you know.
Yeah. Saying that though, I definitely think I'm gonna blow it out. I'll say that, but I just want to like chill.
No, we've had a lot of time to kind of reflect, and I think if you haven't been reflecting, then you probably should, because there's a lot of stuff we need to kind of
definitely
within ourselves as well as other
definitely
people, I think. And it makes you kind of makes you be grateful for the little things in life.
Definitely.
Oh,
I think I think it's just made everyone like more appreciative of the people they're around and like the places that they go, and also like just the services that we have like in our society. Like even you see it now, like
highlights, you know, like the whole essential workers and people who aren't being paid enough for their jobs, and people are thinking like, you know, you voted for a government where they don't pay these people a lot of money, and then you act surprised when they're struggling, especially in a very in a pandemic like this, and then you act grateful. It's like, oh, let's go outside and clap for the NHS. Let's clap. How about you fucking go vote for someone that you don't need to start clapping when you go outside? And
I mean the
NHS isn't a charity either, so.
No, I think that's like the weirdest thing that I'm seeing at the moment is like people trying to raise money for the NHS through services like Virgin Media and Amazon.
Yeah, it's like you're lying.
I literally just finished the run, the 5K thing, then went on social media and then became aware of like, we're putting money back into this man who sued the NHS and has a lot of money.
And he literally asked our government and he literally like asked our government to bail him out after like the COVID-19 pandemic because he's going to be losing so much money on his airlines, but he owns like broadband, Wi-Fi, like banking. It's like if
greed, at what point does greed become like to the point where you have to be embarrassed of like what you're doing, because clearly man does not have a guilty conscience on his at all. Like he's just going to continue to ask for more and more money, and people will keep giving him money as well. Like
it's worrying.
It is worrying. And like the fact that there's a relief fund that like, what's he called, Jeff, can't pronounce his second name, the guy that owns Amazon, so he set up a relief after refusing to pay his like workers a proper wage, like forcing them to take unpaid leave, is now like, here's a relief fund for my workers. And he could, I think someone like estimated, I don't think this, I'm not sure if this statistic is right, but it's like if he paid all of his workers like £500, like
I think I saw that on Twitter,
1% of his wealth or something. It's disgusting. Crazy. Like
Well, yeah, we're really about to get into it. Like, we should go probably like go straight into the, not even in the decoding the messes bit yet, and we're already getting in. But I'm excited. I'm excited. Excited. So for this segment, first off, we go talk about the divine, and the divine is where you highlight, nominate a good thing that's either happened to you or someone else that you know, or you say kind of want to big up. I've got 2 nominations. Right. Oh, is the sun good here, or is it like, am I okay here, or do you think I should be more forward?
If your eyes are okay and you can handle the sun, then
yeah.
I feel like a bit of a fool. Like, I want sunglasses to be inside, but I think that's a bit extra. Do you know what I mean? But then I also don't want, like, I might just chill here. Okay, I'm going to chill here.
Yeah,
sorry, I just had to double check that.
It's kind of elusive like that, 'cause you've got a bit of a shadow. It's a bit like,
yeah, a bit of shadow of like, ooh. So yeah, so for the
kind of go back a bit and be like, ooh, this is getting a bit dark now.
It's like when drama's about to happen. Dun, dun, dun. So amazing. For the first segment we have is the divine. The divine is where we nominate a good thing, and because I've got 2 guests, I decided to nominate 2 good things. Okay. So my first one is this book. I fucking love it. Oh, can you hear me?
Ooh,
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. It's a big book. It's a big book, but I absolutely love it. It's called Woman Who Ran with the Wolves. It's written by, I hope I'm saying this name right, Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Bit of a like, I hope so. Anyway, so she wrote this book. It's honestly gorgeous. Alice Walker has actually wrote on the front of the book here, she said, Women Who Ran with the Wolves isn't just another book. It's a gift of profound wisdom, insight, love, an oracle from one who knows. And I've so this author, essentially, she's got a selection of short stories. It's loads of folk tales, but she's also a Jungian analyst and a storyteller of many years. So she basically writes, she presents a story, and then for the next like corresponding pages she'll talk about the sort of feminine archetypes of the story, or how intuition was developed, and how we are like wolves, and it's actually sort of backwards, how we aren't going to our intuitive, our innate, like sort of instinctive nature, because that's what encourages the divine feminine to protect, love, like nurture, grow, develop, mature as a person. And yeah, no, it's honestly, it's such a beautiful book. Like, the more that I read it, I'm just like, oh my god, there's something so interesting in here. I actually pulled out a page for that I wanted to, well, a paragraph that I just wanted to read out really quickly. And it asks, how does Wild Woman affect women? With Wild Woman as ally, as leader, model, teacher, we see not through 2 eyes, but through the eyes of intuition, which is many-eyed. When we assert intuition, we are therefore like the starry night. We gaze at the world through 1,000 eyes. How do you feel about that?
That's beautiful.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Definitely
when you hear that,
wow.
Yeah, when I said that to you, what did you like? What was your response to that? To those sentences?
I feel like with the whole, because it's about, this book is about like intuition and stuff like that, isn't it? Like,
it says here on the blurb that the book shows how feminine wilderness is both positive and necessary quality for women to carry and cultivate, and it just sort of encourages intuition, but it also encourages us to be more like our wolf selves, or find the wolves within us.
I think that's really interesting, because I've definitely gone through my life where I've had people tell me, like, you know, for example, when I've had a bad feeling about something, and I just say like, oh, it's my intuition, I'm not going to do it, and then they just say, oh, that's stupid, like, why are you gonna, how do you feel like that's a bad thing, like that person hasn't shown you that they're bad? And I'm always right, like, I'm a very
always
I believe I definitely believe that women should, you know, follow that and never let someone kind of deny them that, or tell them that they shouldn't, because I think it is part of who you are, and constantly suppressing that, I think, as well, is kind of blinds you in a lot of ways to a lot of things as well. So
I think it sounds like a much more interesting version of Angela Carter's Bloody Chamber, if you've heard of that.
Oh no, I haven't heard of that. What's that?
Angela Carter is probably the most problematic writer. I hate her. I had to study her in my degree, and I hate the woman. Like, I don't.
Why do you dislike her?
Well, so it's about like feminine wilderness and like kind of retelling folk tales and fairy stories through like a feminine lens. But she is crazy because she. Do you know the Marquis de Sade was a man that wrote this book called 120 Days of Sodom, which is literally about him. He wrote it in jail. It's him basically raping and killing all of these children, and she bases her whole like.
I picked the worst time to start recording.
She's like she bases all her like sort of mystical elements of these like feminine fairy stories in that, and she claims that this man was the first ever person to locate the clitoris, and it's very like, yeah, it's fucking stupid. Like, I even spoke to my mum about this, and my mum was
literally like as soon as you
what,
said
like,
that,
cave women, like yeah.
I was like, I caught that at the right time as well.
Yeah, I mean, she's just like it's just white feminism. I think she's trying to be as it's not even subversive. She's just trying to be as violent and phallic as men, but trying to justify herself as doing that as a woman. But she's not even changing the perspective. Yeah, she's like, there's so much, there's like layers and layers of this, but I think the book you're on about sounds more interesting, because am I right in thinking she's Spanish or South American?
Yeah,
South American?
so where is she from? Oh, it literally said, I want to say she's Spanish. Well, her last name is, but what if, you know what? I'm going to give this a quick Google.
Because I think that would be a more interesting perspective to write those things on, because there's just more depth in that kind of feminine mysticism from sort of non-white lineages, I'd say. It's not all about kind of rape and horrible things.
It says here she's mestiza Latina, which is Native American and Mexican Spanish, but an American poet. But all of these stories, like, she's traveled and journeyed, like, and I'm excited to get to the end, because she has a chapter about how she wrote the book and how she went to all these different places around the world. Like, you have stories from Poland, you have stories from Russia, you have stories from Brazil, and the way that it's been sort of like respected and like translated in a way that's very like able to digest from your whatever reader, like whatever like sort of point that you're in, but also it hasn't sort of like whitewashed any of the stories either. Do you know what I mean? Like, it hasn't.
I have an issue with a lot of like feminist literature, and like especially Western ones. It's like I'm reading it, like I'm on the outside looking in. I can't even relate in that sense, because it's like, this isn't even my, like, not to say my story, that I don't need it read out like that. It's more of a kind of like a feeling of a sense of community where it really does that, I think.
I agree. I find that with a lot of white feminist literature in the same. I don't think it relates to a lot of women, in the sense of it's very egotistical. It comes from a very egotistical place, especially with writers like Angela Carter. It's about her fetishes and her like extremities, and then claims to be feminist. And then it's like, well, you're just talking to start a community, and you're maybe using that kind of narrative of being a woman to push it forward and to get it a bit more clout, you know. And it still continues even in like modern feminist literature. It's very it excludes a lot of people.
It's very like kind of like all about me, kind of that kind of viewership, because it's not necessarily like, hey, it's not a we like collective kind of thing. It's more of an I, me, and like especially with white feminist literature and stuff like that, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't feel like a community to me, and it doesn't even like help highlight or like help bring up other communities or people who, you know, are vulnerable and like oppressed groups and stuff like that. It's very like self-serving and distasteful.
I think you can't assume that your personal sort of struggles relate to everyone else as a woman.
It's not an end-all
like,
be-all either.
Yeah, and I think a lot of like too many white women sort of take that narrative. It's like, oh, like, you know, I experienced this in my family or my social background, and so therefore all women have faced that, where they're not actually taking into account the privileges that they had within them, that, and they might have felt that oppression sort of tenfold if they were Black or if they were queer or trans. Yeah,
I mean, there's just an importance of sort of like allowing, so whatever sort of community, like whatever marginalized community who are talking about their problems, they need to be talking about their problems, not people talking for them. They need to be centered, they need to be uplifted, and they need to have their needs then accustomed to them, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
It's definitely, I think it's even a problem that's expands outside feminism. I think that again, you have like white men trying to write Black narratives a lot in Hollywood at the moment, like Quentin Tarantino with Django Unchained, and he was like, took this kind of white savior position, like, I need to write a story for Black men to feel liberated within this sort of cowboy narrative. And I was like, what how, why are you, like, you know nothing, you know, and like the whole thing is
that Quentin Tarantino definitely just wrote that just so he could say the N-word like 50 million times in the film.
Yeah, like more than he already does.
No, there was no need.
So do you guys have anything that you'd like to nominate for the Divine?
Yes, I'd say.
What do you have to nominate?
I'd like to nominate a psychologist called R.D. Laing, whose sort of ideas have really spoken to me at the moment, like during quarantine. So R.D. Laing was a anti-psychiatrist. So he like rejected psychology and psychiatry like in an institutional form, and he basically said that it's obviously up for dispute, but there's no real such thing as mental illness. Mental illness is simply a reaction to a really deeply divided and structured like social system. And I think really like being out of work at the moment, and kind of within my own space and my own head, I realize how many sort of pressures in my day-to-day life are causing me to be anxious or are causing me to be depressed. And I think it's a really interesting time to reflect. And I think these things can make us, I guess, like reimagine like the bad things that we are embodied, but like we're put in like a day-to-day basis. You know?
Sorry, I'm actually
it's funny, it's cute. It's really interesting that you say that, because it's like, anti-psychiatry, am I right, is suggests that our reaction is a sane reaction to the things that we've experienced in the world. And now that we are isolated because they've been removed, and we can sit with ourselves, well, you can sit with yourself and you can see sort of accept and learn about yourself. It's really like empowering, you know. So that's really interesting,
because definitely I think the things in quarantine that have been giving me like adverse mental health, or just like adverse just mental anything, have been like shit, like I have to apply for universal credit because my employer is refusing to pay me, and that stresses me out. And then because like I'm in my own headspace all day, I'm realizing actually I'm fine up to this point, and then something from the outside world that is negative impacts me and I react mentally badly. And like it's just interesting, like realizing the kind of I guess the forces against us just like in the everyday world, and when we're taken away from them we can like reevaluate them, you know. Yeah,
that's so interesting. I love how you put that. What about you, Hibbs?
My mind has literally gone blank because I just like all the uni work that I've just had the last couple of days has fried my brain. Like,
bless you.
Constantly, like I've not seen a human in like 4 days. Like
really?
I'm a bit mad. Yeah, all my housemates have gone home, so I'm just kind of like in, you know, when you're in that mindset of just constantly like work, like, and I can't even like allow myself to have fun. Like, I just feel guilty.
Oh, bless you.
No, it's really bad.
Well, I've got my second nomination, can maybe uplift you when you want to have a little break. So, have you ladies watched Killing Eve?
No.
I haven't actually.
Oh,
So I've been told by so many people to watch it.
It's on BBC. I literally started watching it 2 days ago, and I finished the whole season in one day. Like,
how many episodes are there?
I want to say like 8, like, at least 8, something like that.
Eight's like you can.
I mean, if it was 10, I wouldn't be shocked. Like, I went through it. I don't want to give too much away, but they've just released season 3. Sorry, the light's really pissing me off. They've just released season 3 on BBC, so that's going to be coming out every Wednesday or so. But oh my god, it's so good. So like basically there's this female and strong female presence, strong female cast. Sandra Oh, amazing actor. She is sort of in the MI9, a bit of a spy, let's say, and she needs to hunt down this female assassin. And it's really interesting how they work together, because it's a story that you don't really see much often, with a female lead being the detective and sort of being the nitty-gritty and the working, like sort of the investigation aspect, I guess. And also seeing the character Jodie Corner, I want to say her name is. She actually used to be in My Mad Fat Diary.
Oh, who did she?
Yeah, she was the main character's best friend. I can't remember her name though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's her, and she's, oh my god, she's so sick. Like she's a complete psycho, but you just love her. And she's really entertaining, but she's like really inventive and an attention seeker, but also really like wicked. Like, it's really interesting to watch, and I've really enjoyed it. So I definitely recommend that. Maybe after you finish a long day at work.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely give it a watch later this evening after I've finished this essay that I'm doing. But that's for another time.
Oh, bless you. So we've come to the segment of Decoding the Messes, where we basically unpack something that we can consider mess. So this could be something that we see online, offline, just something that we want to give some more attention to and hopefully can grow from. As I've invited Ella and Hibbs today, and we spoke so much about feminism, we want to talk more about the intersections within that now. And I wrote this little paragraph earlier, and it basically says, every difference matters, the importance of intersections. I say every difference matters because as a group, right, we all have needs. We all have functions, like I can't speak. We all have needs. We all have goals. Our goals may differ to others.
Woo.
I like your top, Hibbs. Is it a top or a dress, or like a?
It's a dress. It's a traditional Somali dress.
It's so pretty.
My mum like sells them as well because she owns her own like shop.
Oh,
and
amazing.
She imports them from like Saudi Arabia.
Oh,
and
sick.
It's a typically Somali dress, but they make it over there. So, but yeah, all my friends are like, I have one, and I'm like, I don't know if this is bordering like cultural appropriation, but because I'm from the culture, I'll say yes, you can have one, but just don't go putting it around outside in town everywhere, because people literally stop them and be like, you're not supposed to wear that.
Well, like I am. It's a difficult one, really, because like I've got a friend from like a family friend from Bangladesh. Like our families are all like friends of each other, and my mum was going to I think just like, what was it, some function or some party or something, and like they really wanted her to dress up in like traditional like Bangladeshi clothes.
Oh, okay.
And she was because she was like, I feel a bit uncomfortable because I don't want, obviously like cultural appropriation, you don't want to like overstep that line, but they were like, oh well, like we're expected to dress in your traditional dress or whatever, like you should really. And it is that constant thing. Like I've still got a lot of the clothes, really, and I feel like uncomfortable wearing them because obviously it's not my culture, and it's a culture that like white people have really demonized and like cracked into. But it's like I was given.
I think context obviously is really important. Like if someone asks you for an event, then you can. But if obviously by the off chance you're leaving that event and someone snaps a photo of you and goes on Twitter like, look at this bitch culturally appropriating, and then you're like, you know.
Yeah.
So my friend Leah, she was actually my first guest on the show. She was in East Africa. She got her hair braided, right? She got her hair braided by literally like a woman from the country, from the continent. Where was she? I think she was in Tanzania. I can't remember. Anyway, she came back like 2 days later and went to a festival, and this girl tried to have a go at her for cultural appropriation. And it's like, I've literally got my hair done by a black woman in East Africa, and she was treating me. She wanted me to look like, because she was doing like volunteer work, I think. So she was with a group of people and they bonded, and she was showing some love. So how can you be like, cultural appropriation when you literally were in East Africa? Like, what the fuck?
Like, if people don't know, then you can't really blame them for not knowing, because obviously 9 out of 10 times it's always white girls who are like, I'm getting my hair braided for a festival and I'm gonna get these fake locks and shit because and I'm not part of like black culture and I don't want any of the oppression that comes with being black. I just want to look black for the day. But then that 1% where the person does actually go to that country and like people of that culture do like invite them in, I guess is okay. But you kind of, I mean, for her to go to a festival after she'd been there, maybe she should have taken them out. That's just my own personal opinion, because you're not, people aren't gonna know, and no one's gonna sit there and be like, oh yeah, tell me exactly why you should be there.
I think it's just that sort of that a lot of people think they're access to you, and they think that they can come and talk to you as well, like be very like because you're them, because you're so near to me, I can put my feelings onto you. And it's just like, but I'm not accessible, you don't know me, you know? Like, you could have mind your business, but you chose to speak up.
It is a difficult one as well, because I find a lot of the time it's white girls preaching to white girls about cultural appropriation.
Literally!
And I'm like,
oh my god, I have a story, guys.
Oh wait, do you know what? This is a perfect time to take into the segment of Decoding the Messes, right? So Decoding the Messes is where we unpack something that we've seen, heard, something that's just irked us in a way, and I can feel like we're about to get into it. So let's dive deep. What were you going to say, Hibbs?
So this is like back in my Tumblr days, like maybe 3-4 years ago. And I remember, because look, so basically I'm wearing like a Somali, this is a dress that you wear in the house. So it's just basically like it's called a bati. And then there's like a fancier version that you wear to weddings. And when you go to weddings, East Africans have the similar cultures to like South Asian cultures, sorry, not East Asian. South Asian. And we have like headsets where it's literally got like a little bindi in the middle, but you wear it to wedding. And I posted a photo, and this white girl goes in my DM, literally wrote the most biggest paragraph. I wish I'd saved it because it was so funny. She was like, I don't think it's okay that you're like appropriating South Asian culture. I was like, mate, that's East African culture. And also she told me not to have henna. I was like, are you all right? Because
that's mad. Yeah, like
South Asians, we all share this, not the same culture, but we all have similar, like we all use henna and mendi. We all have like, you either wear headsets or have, not necessarily bindis, but like something similar to that. And then this white girl, literally blatantly white, I went on her profile, clicked on her photo, I was like, this is a Caucasian. Your honor, this is a white person. But yeah, she was just going off on me, and I literally could not stop laughing. I just thought, who are you to even? It was
also like, you're just assuming where someone's from as well. Like, she doesn't know you.
More if it was from a South Asian person, or if it was someone who like didn't understand, because I would have been willing to like open up a dialogue and talk to them about it and say, hey, we share very similar cultures, but it was just But
well, also, it's and also it's like, why is a white person sort of almost putting you on fire for your own for your own culture? Like,
do your own research.
It's just.
And we said this chat with. I said this to you earlier, Sarah. How can you be so loud and so wrong at the same time?
Tell them. Like, actually, would you mind like giving the listeners what was going? Oh my god, why am I stuttering? So Would you mind telling the listeners like about your events of today?
Oh yeah, okay. So I was on Twitter and I posted a photo of Selena Gomez's new hairstyle, which is clearly like a black hairstyle, and then two other girls. You know that girl who was like blackfishing, Emma Hallberg, the Swedish one on Instagram,
yeah.
and then another girl who's like Chris Brown's second baby mother or something like that. Anyway, she's acts like she's Blasian, but she's fully Asian. So I posted a tweet saying, which one of these ladies is black? And then I quote retweeted it again saying, that was a trick question. None of them are. And someone replied to my tweet, and I didn't know who it was at first. And I realized it was someone I go to uni with, this guy, complete fucking incel, by the way. So he commented and he was like, oh, that's racist. And I was like, oh, it's racist to point out that none of these women are black. And then he was like, your thought process is racist because it doesn't matter about their skin color. And I was just like, yes, it does matter if you're purposely trying to make yourself darker to appear black and to change the texture of your hair, but you don't want any of the oppression that comes along with being a black person. You just want to dip in and out of like it's almost a fucking fashion sense or something. Basically what the Kardashians do, and think it's okay and you can get away with that.
Yeah.
It's funny. That was just a funny thing of the day. Like, I'm racist. I was like, you know what? Maybe I am. Maybe I'm racist.
But the thing is, it's like even if you are racist, you're a black woman. You can't do much about it, my love. Like you can't do.
You can't really be racist if you think about it.
Exactly. Like that's the thing. Loads of people. Like I think with racism, when I was studying it at uni, it's like you can get discriminated in 3 different ways. Let's say you get personal, institutional, and cultural. So cultural would be cultural appropriation, and personal would be like what someone has said to you, like I don't know whether that's on the road or at your well, hopefully not at your house. But institutional would be when you go to universities, the more that you work with the various places of institution. And I find it really mad how like people think that because people take like the personal thing and expect the same impact as institutional and cultural, but that's not the case. And the fact that I'm communicating with you as a dark-skinned black woman needs to be respected, because how are you supposed to learn if you don't really like recognize the voice where it's coming from? Like there's just no point. It's like
no one really ever like, for example, you could have a black woman saying this to your face and people will just literally be like, don't know what she's talking about. But then it's like you could take her message, put it on a white person's like platform, and then everyone will be like, oh, actually they're making points here.
I see that like every day online, every day. Constantly. Like
I remember you sent me something, Ella, of that. Who was that girl on Instagram who would like she did like those illustrations and like that, those feminists.
Yeah, we spoke about her last episode. Yeah, well, there's quite a few of them. She's called Florence Given. Yeah, it's just like she's congratulated for being intersectional without actually working with black women, but she uses their aesthetic
like just
to give her that. Yeah, and like I find the whole just that whole argument, you know, it's like with white women with dreads or white women in like Southeast Asian, you know, like traditional outfits. No one wants to listen to those actual women, but they will listen to a white woman spelling it out to them. Like they won't actually consider a black woman's argument, you know? But like as soon as a white girl of like, I don't know how many, like a milli like Instagram followers says it's wrong, like it's instantly wrong.
It kind of reminds me of the whole like, for example, like all the like sorry, I'm kind of going over my words as well.
It's fine, don't you worry.
Environmental activism that was like, especially with like African children, but it's like there's this one girl, I think she was like South African. I'm trying to remember her name, sorry. She's been like saying the exact same thing that Greta Thunberg has been like going on about and banging on about, but who do they listen to? The white girl she's from Sweden.
Didn't they actually didn't they crop her out of a photo?
Yes, newspaper? I saw that.
Yeah, that was dreadful. Like, it's just things like them. We think we're progressing, and then little things like that happen, and you're like back to square one.
It happens every day, though, and like I'm at this point, I'm kind of, not to say numb to it. I'm just kind of, it's kind of a given, you know, and that's unfortunate because I don't want to think like that, and I don't want to view the world like that. But it's kind of, you kind of have to mentally set yourself up for like, not failure, but just not getting.
Well, it's awareness. It's like a safety precaution, isn't it? Because like where I was brought up in Windsor, like it literally has a castle. Like there's a queen there. It's fucking white. Like it's so. It's
well.
Pardon.
I said it kind of blows my mind that you're from there.
Mate, it's okay. So like the fact that I was like brought up there made me really, well, I mean, learn about racism very fucking quickly. But also like it made me learn about different levels. So like, you know how racism is power and prejudice. However, because I was living in such a economic, like prosperous, like environment, the money like sort of heightened your expectations of people, of others, and also what they thought of you. It sort of like perpetuated in itself. And it's interesting because some things I could tell you, like I can literally see a racist white woman from a mile away. However, I didn't know, like, cultural appropriation didn't exist where I was growing up. Like, I can promise you now, I did. The first time I probably saw, like, let's say a white person with like Afro protective hairstyles and stuff was probably when I was like 14 or 12 or something like that, and I just thought it looked funny. And then when I obviously moved to uni and stuff, I was like, oh, okay. Like it just shocked me, but that wasn't something that I was exposed to. However, maybe if I wasn't in Windsor, maybe if I was living in London instead, I would have seen a different experience.
I think as well, like it kind of become a bigger issue as like when the internet kind of progressed on, like especially with like sites like Tumblr and stuff like that. For me, I only really grasped that when I was like 18, and now I'm like literally 24, so that wasn't very long ago. Like I did not know any of that like when I was in school, or like even when I went to college. Like I just kind of I would see a white person with like braids or dreads, and I'd be like, funny, and then just like never think.
Like just go about your day.
But then as soon as like I started like being on Tumblr and started reading all these posts, I was like, damn, I actually agree with this, like you know. And it kind of woken up something in my brain about like kind of the microaggressions, everything else along with that, and like how it's acceptable for certain people to do those things. Sorry, I got a bit of soup in my mouth.
Don't you worry.
I mean, sorry, it was a chili flake. Sorry, I kind of went on a bit of a tangent as well.
It's fine. We're all going on tangents today. Like I generally, sorry, go on, Ella. Hello.
No, just like off that though, I think the reason, because I think the same with me really, and also just realizing in general, like the racism that I grew up with that I wasn't aware to, that was just like expected, you know. I think like it's weird because when we were sort of teenagers and in high school, like popular culture was so white. You remember it was all like Hollister, like blonde size zero.
Oh my
girls.
god, yeah.
And now it's like moved. It's kind of like black culture is now like the main thing that's being commodified, but it's being commodified by like white people pretending to be black people, which is really weird. So it's like no longer
whole like fetish with black women, and the thing is, it's like people in big rappers and stuff like that will use women who aren't even black, or like mixed race women who they think is the acceptable version of a black woman. Or the lighter they are, the better it is. And like they used to do that back in the day. It was called the brown paper bag test, and it was like if you were darker than a paper bag, then you're not going to be in it. And that's unfortunate because it's still like you're still stealing from black women, because they're always basically the trendsetters, but putting it on a very lighter body, which I just don't understand. But I guess that's acceptable in the media now.
It's strange. It's like they want to sexualize black women without including black women. It blows my mind really. I think it's just like the racial fetishization of being like mixed, you know. It's like how white people always want to say like, oh, you know, like I had like a granddad from like, I don't know, like Vietnam or something, you know. Like white people feel like really special if they have some kind of like you know, like a different culture other than white within their lineage, they think they're better than everyone else. And I think it's almost like that to the extreme. It's weird.
I think that whole thing, like, especially like what I see on the internet about people saying, like for example, white women on TikTok who go, I can't wait to have a black boyfriend, and it's like they're literally fetishizing you and like talking about how they want mixed babies with green eyes. That's just disgusting.
It is.
Yeah, you should.
It's like it's like the same as being a eugenist. Like, this was what the Nazis were trying to achieve. They were trying to achieve like special breeds of people through, like, you know, breeding different people. Do you get me? Like designer babies and stuff. Like, that is actually like an extreme fascist ideal that they're tapping into there. Like, is actually kind of disturbing.
Like, I think the argument with black men on Twitter, they'll say, I don't get why black women are angry about this. Like, they should be angry. If anything, they're bigging us up. And it's like, no, hun. There's flattery, and then there's pure fetishization. And I don't think fetishization is a good thing either, because
it's not.
They don't view you as a human. They view
you they view as property.
Exactly.
Yeah, like 100%.
Well, I've got another thing to ask you here. We're sort of going back and forth about like even though obviously it's like just morally wrong to fetishize, dehumanize people, etc., but there's also this like this morally wrong area and being complicit, and complacency to me just upholds the structure. And I wanted to ask what you guys thought of that matter. Like, essentially we're talking about a systematic problem, and you've got these individuals who don't think they're that bad, but they're not good either because they're not actively doing anything. They're just like allowing it to sort of exist. And what do you think about that? What do you think about it?
Literally, the amount of times where I've been on nights out with like friends of friends, or like people that I kind of like know, but not that close, that we're like good pals. But like, I've been in situations where obviously something either racial or cultural is brought up, and I'm the only person who really speaks up about it, and then everyone just kind of sits there and thinks, oh, I'm not going to get involved. And it's like, you're literally the reason why this keeps happening, because you're not saying anything, and you don't want to get involved, and you want to be the person who doesn't want to have a problem with everyone. But at what cost does it, like, do you need to react for? Because if it's making me uncomfortable and I'm supposed to be someone who you call a friend, then to me it's just fake. It's bullshit. And it's like, you go on Instagram and you want to talk about your activism and stuff like that, and how you support women and how you repost these posts, but when it comes down to real life and I'm fucking there, beep, it's like literally not a peep out of them. But
it's weird. It's like they're like, there's a degree to which people sort of don't want to get involved because they don't want to, I don't know.
I get being not confrontational, but there's a difference between being confrontational and literally purposely not getting yourself involved when you know that it could, if you speak up, it could probably help the situation.
I think nowadays what's disturbing is like, what is more preferable is like an aesthetic of being like activist and progressive and inclusive, rather than actually being that. Which really bothers me, like across the board, like in every like form of liberation politics, it's happening.
It's just interesting because I have a lot of friends who, you know, for example, when it came down to the election, and they'll be like, oh yeah, vote Labour, but then you see them go home to their fucking Tory parents and and it's not even like they're trying to get them to change their opinions or like you know, help the situation. It's more of kind of like, oh, I'm just going to be a Labour supporter while I'm checked in at uni during the term time.
It's mad. It's like, I understand why people don't feel comfortable. No, I understand, like you said, I understand the non-confrontation aspect of it. However, I also think that you're not doing yourself a justice, because you're sort of like, well, you're not doing yourself as well as the people around you justice, because you're I want to say like the range, like, sorry, I don't know how to like work this. I might have to like reload again. Sorry, reload, lol. Reload. The thing is, I understand why people sometimes aren't comfortable with confrontation. However, if you choose to be complicit, if you choose to be ignorant, that's still a fucking choice. Like that. excuse, that example would have accepted it when I was 16. I'm not now, you know.
Yeah,
like I do not.
Adults here.
Do you know what I mean? It's like you pay tax, right, and you still can't make a decision.
Yeah.
Or not even just make a decision, but like you can't make a decision, but you also aren't able to communicate that like why. But I'm like, I just don't get it.
Also, I think turning a blind eye, it just causes so much more damage on so many more levels. I can just think of an example, basically, just from like my upbringing. So so in Cardiff, there's like a large sort of Asian community, like just it's mainly like Bangladeshi, Pakistani. But what I noticed when I was growing up, so I had friends from like Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, and then growing up, when we went to school, we were all told that, like, you know, we're all equal, you're all going to go to uni, you're all going to get jobs. And then as I was getting older, say from the age of like 14, 15, I couldn't go out with my Bangladeshi friend unless she had like a male chaperone, or like she wasn't allowed to sleepovers. And then like we got more and more distant, and then like some of them, whilst all my white friends were going to uni, they were all going and getting like arranged marriages, or like having to stay home, or like their parents were forcing them into more like domestic roles and jobs. And then none of the white people who were like the white adults in these situations, the people at school, the people involved in social services, were turning around and saying anything, because they were like, oh, this is a race issue, like we don't really want to seem like racist, we don't want to overstep our boundary, like
it's more of a cultural thing.
Yeah, and it is more of a cultural thing. But there was like that instant, like they were telling white girls were being told like you can be anything you want, and then a black girl or an Asian girl is being told something completely different, and then the people overseeing that in schools aren't doing anything about it. They are being they're turning a blind eye. They're turning a blind eye, like, and it happens. You see it across the board, like people
literally fails so many people, like every single day. And it's just it kind of makes you really sad to think about that. And it kind of also makes me like, I had the same thing where I had friends who were also like, for example, like from Bangladeshi and Pakistani backgrounds, who obviously had a very strict, like very, very strict upbringings. And I always kind of questioned that. And I used to say to my mum, like, because people would make this assumption that it's a Muslim thing. And I said to my mum, like, how come like some people do that, but we don't do that? And she was like, it's not our religion. Like I said before, it's a cultural thing. Yeah. And she was like, God, like I would never get you arranged marriage. You don't have to worry about that. I was just like 13 years old, like, whoo, thank God.
But yeah, I think that there is like a level within like different people's interpretations of cultures and stuff that are really misogynistic and problematic. And there's a lot of white people.
I'm saying that all Pakistani or Bangladeshi cultures.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Just a disclaimer.
No, of course not. Of course not.
Because as well, like within white culture, there's that as well. There are white people getting arranged marriages and being forced into those roles as well.
I had
so we're not like
friends who are like in really strict.
Like it's not at all marginalizing it. It's just I think there is an issue with white people seeing things that would happen to a black or an Asian girl, whereas it was happening for a white girl, they'd intercept because they don't see like a cultural or a racial barrier, but they feel too scared to be like
as well.
They're kind of like but they're just sort of like not, they're I don't know, there's just like something where they're like, oh, this isn't where I should be stepping.
I think it's various levels. I think there's various layers. I think one of the layers is the fact that you see this cultural barrier, so you are uncomfortable with how to navigate it. You're also in a place of power, which means that you do you have to follow like is it bureaucratic like sort of pathways to sort of implement the things that you want. However, because let's say if we were talking about the example of like little white and brown girls or something, with how whiteness was portrayed, especially within history and within society today, is that whiteness is pure and angelic and innocent. So you want to cater to whiteness. You want to, you know, help whiteness. You want to absolve whiteness of its worries. However, when you see blackness, you're like, like they'll do. Yeah. They'll sort themselves out. And those tropes sort of feed into the strong, independent woman, the sassy black woman, whereas the white woman now can like fall into like white women weaponizing their tears. Do you see how those two theories that have been throughout history, society for years and years and years are still perpetuated because of that dynamic and because of that conditioning of white is right and black is bad? You know, so it's really
took me years to kind of like unlearn that myself, because when I went to college, I used to go to a very like mixed school, and then I went to the whitest college ever. It was kind of like a culture shock for me. But then as soon as I got there, I realized I started to pick up the kind of tone of people, that what they were using to refer to me, or like certain guys who were like, oh, you're a strong, independent black woman. And I just thought, I kind of was like, okay, like, but okay, but it just kind of made me realize the way that people viewed me before I even got to give them a chance to get to know me as a person.
Oh yeah, literally, like honestly, my mum, like I remember one of my first ever lessons in racism. Like I remember me and my mum were in Windsor. I was maybe 8 or like 10 or something, and we were walking down the street, and this man walked into her, and she just stared him the fuck out. And she told me, she's like, Sarah, because of like segregation laws and stuff, black people were expected to move to a side when white people passed. So whenever you walk with confidence, you walk in a straight line, because people will be walking into you left, right and center all the time. So I
did that actually. I tried that theory out. Like I was with my friend and I said, oh, let me just for once not walk out of the way. And the amount of men that just bumped into me, and then I'll look at them and they're like, oh, sorry. And it's like, watch where the fuck you're going. Like, I'm not making space for you.
Oh, just no, don't. Never. Because that's the thing with me. I see it as the fact that, oh, Windsor, that was round 1. Round 2 is the world. You think I'm going to undermine my behavior for you? Yeah. You're crazy. You're crazy. Like how does that make sense? Because I've experienced living in a very white middle class area, and then on top of that I went to fucking boarding school for 3 years. That was a barrel fucking laugh. Like I don't know what the fuck was there. It was the most randomest thing ever. For 3 years it was just bloody ridiculous. Like, and I just find it mad how like all of my experiences has been so influenced by money, and it's been influenced by racism, that I know all of this shit. And when people ask me to like come to me to be like, oh, this happened to you, I'm like, well, would you mean this happened to me? Like, you can read this shit online. Like, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Kind of... It was just, I only faced extremities because of the fact that I lived in that area and that I was darker. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's all kind of like, it's unfortunate to say, but like the whole collective black experience, like there is not a single black person you probably won't meet who hasn't experienced some level of like racism or, you know, like prejudice in their lifetime, which is unfortunate, because like I can literally tell before you even like properly get to know someone that I'm just like, yep, we've been through it. Like we look so haggard at this point. Like I'm just done. I'm sick and I'm tired of it. And I thought
bags under the eyes.
Literally, I thought coming to uni, I was like, finally, I'll be free from the clutches of racism. Little did I know, Manchester was just...
Oh my Manchester, God. Like, what I really noticed, Manchester is so white. Like, so white. Like, more than, like,
how many black people do you know? Like, no. on the count of one hand, Sarah.
See, I don't think so. I think... No, I don't think... I disagree. I feel like with Manchester, everyone is there visually. Like, I think it's diverse visually. Like, you always see different types of people and different walkways of life. However, actually developing, like, establishing relationships with them and, like, having close sort of communities with them is a lot harder to develop in comparison to, like, me in London. Like,
if you think about it, though, uni-wise, though, like, for example, I don't know, wait, did you go to uni of? Sarah?
Yeah, I went to uni of.
So I don't know about uni of, but I can speak for, like, when I say MMU, and especially for people like us, like, for example, Ella, who, like, who were all like either from fine art or like who did like film and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I literally know about maybe 2 Black people just in that sense.
I think it's really interesting just looking at both MMU and Uni of and realizing the cultural differences between the two, and not even like racial, like class. Like I was like I was on a course of like 60 people, and I was one of like 5 people on that course that wasn't privately educated. And then like there was this whole thing, like they would, you know, people in my class wouldn't talk to me because I wasn't from this specific area of London, or I didn't go to this school.
That's so cringy. I hate when people do that. Like, I hate it so much. I hate it so much.
And like I kind of get away with it, I guess, because like I like one of like my first language is Welsh, but like I have the like my parents are English speaking, so I have a very like English Southern accent. But like I think I sometimes get away with like sounding like I'm like a London posh girl, and then like actually explaining to one of these people at a party like, no, I'm not from London, like I'm from fucking Cardiff, and they're just like, who the fuck is this girl, like why is she at our party, like why, like, you know, it's really like just weird, just like. And then noticing my friends that go to MMU, and they're like the people on their courses tend to not be middle class, you know what I'm saying, like it tends to be like, and you know, that was originally like the polytech university, and you can see how these like class and racial lineages are still continued today within our like education system. Like it's
I get it. Especially like in like the Manchester like creative scene as well. I just think it's not very, for me it's not very like sorry, what was the word I was going to
inclusive or representative.
Yeah, because it's like, for example, Ella, when we went to that Antwerp thing, I'm not going to say anything too bad.
We shouldn't like out-name people, but
no incriminations here.
There's a lot of eye-opening things, and clearly
so we went to a an art show basically that was
You're right.
I'm trying to say this without spilling dirt, but it was, the premise was sex positive.
Sorry.
The premise.
Jam in my mouth.
The premise of this art show was like sex positivity and like kind of female experience. And I think like me and Hibbs just looked at each other and we were like, this is very white.
Well, let's go outside for a cig, and then we went outside for about an hour, and we were just talking about everything and anything that wasn't that.
And it was strange because you could see that this art show was put on to give clout to a certain number of white girls, and then they were using a few like queer people and black people as, and here are like the people we're like trying to include, but they'll be on the wall over there, even though their art actually said a lot more than their art was saying. But you know, it was just like it was really interesting seeing like their art compared to like the black people's art and the gay people's art within that exhibition, and how like more expressive it was, and how it was like kind of tackling stuff that was a bit less on the nose, and like, you know, like kind of, I can't say the word, like, you know, it was more like experiential, like experiential, you know, like you could look at it and be like, like it kind of related to your experience of sexuality more, whereas all these white girls were like, here are my tits, and then, you know, if I was, you know, and I knew if I was going to go up to one of these girls and be like, yo, so here's your tits on a wall, what's that saying? I'd just get some mumble for 10 minutes, like, oh, feminism, oh, like, oh, censorship.
Very
like, and like that's all that's coming through in feminist art at the moment, particularly from white women. It's just like, here are my boobs, I'm allowed to show myself, fuck you guys, Gucci gang, fucking clout.
I'm so done with it.
I'm gonna draw a black girl and you're gonna love me because I'm so inclusive. I hate it.
The visuals for you, Ella, right now. I just see your hair like floating about.
No, but like when I went there, and I think I went upstairs and I sat down for a bit, and I just thought, like, this kind of gave me like a bit of a fire under my ass, because I thought, right, like, I'm gonna just do my own shit, and I'm just gonna make my own art that obviously that people may or may not be able to relate to, but that's gonna be not
it's
to
a reflection of you.
bitch. Yeah, not to bitch, but obviously better than that, because there's obviously more depth in there, and it's more it's to me, it's not something very surface level and pretentious in a sense. Not to say that obviously art is subjective, but like that, I don't know, I just thought it was just an excuse for them to all just go and get fucked and just throw something out there and just, you know, and do that.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of very shallow content being made that gets projected because it's like, I'm a woman, feminism, you know, like, and it doesn't go
like,
beyond that.
I'm part of this collective, everyone follow us on Instagram, and really it's like people aren't putting the effort into what they're making, essentially, because it's like just slapping a name on it and then you're putting it there.
Honestly, it's completely fine if you just want to show your tits and be a bit narcissistic, but don't pretend, do not fucking pretend that you're trying to be like an activist, feminist, fucking god forsaken, like, do you get me? Like, just say like, these are my tits, I'm a narcissist. Why do you need to bring like a feminist narrative into it? There's like, free the nipple, what, that was like 5 years ago, like, even though it still needs to be going, you know, like, can we like move on? Yeah.
Like, it's intriguing that you say that, because you talked about things being surface level, and one of the other things I wrote down was a comfortness and being challenged, right? And I think the two sort of align, because essentially if you've got something that's surface level, then you haven't you haven't pressed it enough, you haven't pushed it enough to create depth, and there needs like to be a place within yourself that you allow others in to challenge you, or you can challenge yourself safely for you to develop and grow. And I find it really intriguing, because you've got also many artists and sort of influencers who's like, oh my god, this thing, look at this, all of that, and it's like, right, okay, cool, that might be good for like the first 10 minutes and maybe your first paycheck, but like that's not really evoking change. It's not very like, if that feeds your soul, then who am I to judge? But I just don't see the two.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. And
it's just like, if I look at art, especially if I'm going to go to an exhibition and I want to see something new, I want to see something captivating, I want to see something like that's going to make me stop and read the sign and think, oh, that's really interesting. I don't want to fucking see something that's been regurgitated, that's been posted on every fucking social media platform, that's just constantly your body, and it's also an acceptable version of a body, it's a white version of a body, it's a body that, you know, that you're using, you're also kind of weaponizing in a sense. And I just think, like, where is
what do you mean by weaponizing?
Because I think there was like one piece that I saw that was just kind of like, it had like a little sign on the bottom, and it was like a girl's vagina, I think. Did you see that, Ella? And it was like a girl's vagina that was like maybe a drawing or a painting, I can't remember, but it had like a sign, and it was just like, fuck this, who, I think it was like based on like sexual assault, which I think obviously that's very important, but like it was just kind of like saying, fuck this, like you can use me, you can fuck me, you can do whatever you want. But she was kind of like in the tone of like kind of weaponizing that. But I don't know if that was a way for her to like reclaim the experience of what happened. But I was just kind of like, I don't know how it made me feel. I
guess, well, that's the thing, because you're like, that's a lot. I think with anything as sensitive as sexual coercion, sexual assault, sexual like sort of mistreatment, I think, because it is such a sensitive issue, for someone to reclaim that through like, well, yeah, for someone to reclaim that is ownership and taking, like, well, they're reclaiming their power. So I think that, I mean, I hadn't seen the artwork, so I can't argue, but what do you think?
Well, but one thing I'd say is that like the feminist art that's like sort of promoted again and again and gets the most attention is usually that kind of artwork that Hibbs just described, you know, of like, I'm reclaiming my body from so-and-so. And it's almost like it just gets to a point where obviously, like, of course, I'm all for like women using art and poetry and whatnot to like reclaim their bodies after awful traumatic stuff that's happened to them. But it gets to this extent, like if Saatchi or like MoMA or like Tate or any kind of art platform, if they're repeatedly only
showing a narrative,
female artists, the only narrative of female art they're showing is sexual abuse and violence and nudity. Is that any different from like that's been depicted from male artists throughout generations? And it's like we're still seeing women as like kind of bits of
and it's still creating stereotypes as well.
It's like vulnerability, you know. Yeah, definitely.
You know what, like, you've actually made me rethink what I've said. It's like now that's how it's reflected in the institutional setting of the art world, but it can be reflected in various aspects of it can be reflected differently in different aspects, so that's really intriguing. But I want to ask how, like, because I know us three as people, if someone told us, if we probably said something in this podcast, well, I'm sure I've probably said something in the past 3 podcasts that someone's been like, oh wait, and then they've challenged it, I would be like, oh, okay, cool, okay, I accept it, and I can acknowledge it and then grow from it. What advice would you give to people to accept challenging comments? Because I just reset when anybody's like, oh yeah, that's untrue, because some people don't, and then you realize that they end up spending like sort of spreading more nonsense out in the world and they shouldn't.
I think the first thing is never assume that you are always right and you are the most knowledgeable within a situation, because like I'm aware now, like we've been talking about race for like the majority of this podcast. I realize like I'm a white woman, I have a lot of privilege, and I need to learn from like my Black friends and like people when they're talking about these issues, and I'm not going to be the one leading that conversation because it's not my experience. It's my responsibility to listen and to be aware and to like take advice and just be, you know, more aware and more open and like knowledgeable about these things. I couldn't come into this conversation and be like, I'm a feminist, you know, I've got this platform, that's completely wrong.
People like have done that and they've come into conversations and then spoken over the people of color, or like, and also, by the way, I hate that term. People of color and Black people is not an interchangeable like term. Like you can't replace one for the other.
It's not. It's like literally like I just find it ridiculous. Like someone said to me, "Oh, like because you're a person of color." I was like, "I'm not a person of color. I'm a Black person. My experiences are my experience are very different to yours. Where everyone has a different history, different exploitation, a different discrimination.
Created.
Do you know what I mean?
I kind of think as well, especially within feminism, it's reached a point where white women are speaking on behalf of Black women, and it's like that's so wrong to me, because like how can you know, you can't be leading those conversations. That's not your place. You know, you can be involved in those conversations and you can listen and be receptive, but you cannot be leading that at all.
The only time I think it's okay for them to use their platform is to basically boost that person's voice. Don't use your platform
definitely
to steal their work and to steal what they're saying, just to like
absolutely
use that and like package it in an acceptable form, because that's what's going to continue silencing people like Black women, especially.
Because I see it a lot, like especially about the artists we're talking about, stealing things that like Black activists have written and have said, and then like sort of milking it down and pretending it's her own words. And it's like, no, repost it, fucking ask maybe your publisher or someone if they can like do something with it, maybe get them involved in one of your shows. Like
definitely,
it's not, don't steal other people's voices to make yourself look like a better activist. It's just that's completely just diminishes every form of like equality or like that you're about, you know.
So that's really interesting how you said don't steal other people's voice, because it's that whole idea of centering again. And I think within feminism, to make it truly intersectional, you need to appreciate and become accustomed to the need and tailor to the needs of the community, whether that is influenced by race, whether that's influenced by culture, whether that's influenced by ability. It's something that you have to be mindful of, because if you aren't, then it sort of limits the progress that we all are collectively having, because we're not moving forward. Like, it's not fair if one group's moving forward and then the other group is like 5 miles away from that group, and then the other group is 5 miles. It's like some fucked up relay. Like, it doesn't make sense.
No, definitely. it's yeah, and I think it's one of those things. I think oh my god, I'm trying to find the words to say what is in my brain. Sorry, just
no, don't you worry.
I
that's
think
something that I'm learning to navigate, like doing this podcast.
I think it's very easy for white women to project themselves forwards and forget other people, and because it's like they've been kicked down, now they're suddenly on this pedestal of like, oh yeah, you know, we are the witches that couldn't be burnt, and they're feeling all this pride in that and all this like positive energy. So like it's almost like there's that thing of like, well, why should we share this with other people? Why should we push other people forwards? That, you know, that own like liberation that they're getting from this moment in history almost sort of fuels their egotism and almost surpasses the need to be inclusive, which I think a lot, you know, and it's like, we're the witches that couldn't be burnt, and it's like, well, your dad was probably a fucking colonialist, you know, he probably owned slaves. Like, you know, I find that a lot, but yeah.
No, that was great, Ella. I'm really appreciative of everything that I've learned from you and Hibbs in this section. I'm going to take you guys to now Tarot Talks, and Tarot Talks is where I do a little tarot reading for you guys. And in the spirit of the divine feminine, in the spirit of intersectional feminism specifically, one of the first questions that I want to ask is, how does spirit provide guidance to the movement becoming more inclusive? Like, what does spirit have to say in enhancing that like ideal? Oh, how are you guys feeling? Hope you're all breathing right now.
Oh, I'm
energy
breathing.
come through you.
My room.
I'm just thinking about all the work I have to do after this.
Okay, amazing. So we're in our, now I've got emails coming up. Yeah, yes, please. So we're now into our next segment of Tarot Talks, where I provide a tarot reading for my two guests. I've got the assistance, you're still in the camera, I'll move it inside. We've got the assistance of my great housemate, Alice. You can't see her at the moment, but she's great. And she's helping me record a little bit of the tarot, so woohoo! So the first question that I sort of wrote down, because on the spirit of divine feminine, intersectional feminism, I wanted to ask spirit to provide guidance in the movement becoming more inclusive. And I drew the Eight of Pentacles, right? Can you guys see that card?
Yeah, Eight of Pentacles.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So here you see a lady. She is working on her art. She's drawing a pentacle, and pentacles are associated with the element of earth, and earth is shouting out to all my, sorry, I forgot all of the horoscopes that are associated with earth.
I'm a Taurus, earth sign.
Yeah.
Shout out, what was it? Taurus?
Taurus, Virgo,
Amazing.
Capricorn.
I'm going to say that again. So this is a shout out to all my earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. When we think of earth and tarot and pentacles, we talk about anything that's external to us. So this could be represented or reflected in your health, your wealth, your career, but also it could be like your ego, something that's sort of outside of you that is sort of, just recognized more efficiently by anything outside of you. So when we see the Eight of Pentacles, it suggests that someone is honing their craft. They're perfecting it, they're mastering it. With eights, we see continuity, consistency, but also a balance, which suggests to me that spirit is encouraging us to sort of make sure that things are being developed within our space, and I mean like our home space, so like our body, our interests, our beliefs, because when you see the Eight of Pentacles, it's something that's it's not completion yet. You're sort of still learning how to mature it. You're still learning how to find that equilibrium of the that's the energy of the card that's reading. It's intriguing because like we said it in response to providing guidance to the movement becoming more inclusive. And I think that suggests that we need to still sort of do work within ourselves, like harvesting our craft, because you see with the Eight of Pentacles, it's a lone figure. She's by herself. She's indoors. She's sort of so much focus has been like put into her work. So that tells me that spirit is encouraging us to look into ourselves to then be a better piece for the collective later on. Does that make sense? How do you feel from that?
Well, I think just like the fact that she's indoors and by herself now is kind of quite reflective of quarantine at the moment. And I think maybe this is a good opportunity for people to maybe reflect on like the work that they're doing or want to do, and like how that can actually play into either helping people or just as simple as being more inclusive and more accessible. You
had a question. Sorry, Hibbs, what were you saying?
Oh no, I was just saying how that's like really interesting, because like recently, the last couple of not days, maybe the last 2 weeks, I've just started like doing that more. Not to say that not everyone has been self-reflecting, but you know, for me, because I'm someone who's just kind of like a bit scattered and all of it, I put my thoughts out there, and that's that. Like I've just started to more keep things like journaling, like ideas and stuff like that, whereas like before I'd like put it out there, create something, and then move on to the next thing. But now it's more of kind of like planning more, I think, in a sense.
Same.
More. I'm such a bad planner. Like I like to just do things and then get it out of the way and then just do something else. But that's just me and my ADHD brain. We've got like a million things going on. So just kind of be more grounded in a sense. But
yeah,
grounded. That is actually such a good word to sort of.
I should be grounded considering I'm a Taurus, but like I think my Cancer rising sign and my Pisces moon just makes me like a bit all over the place.
Water signs.
We love water signs.
Like a water sign on a fire sign, so I have no sense of grounding.
I'm just crazy. Ella, you had a question for the tarot reading. What was it?
It was just like, how can we continue challenging ourselves in order to progress our outlook on life and also our activism? So how can we find like positive elements of being challenged, or like challenging ourselves, or just like taking in other people's opinions and challenges towards sort of our rhetoric?
Interesting. So you know how I said I was doing 2 cards? I'm now doing 3. So Spirit has just jumped out in the force of 2 cards. So I'm going to respect what Spirit has to say. So the next card that flew out of the deck is the 8 of Cups. Can you see that?
Yes. Yeah.
What does that mean?
You know what? This is actually so interesting. So you know what? I'm showing you the second card, but now I'm going to show you the third card that's just come out.
What's this? Is this the
Page of Pentacles?
So we've got a lot of cups and pentacles, which are good signs.
It's really interesting because the first image you see, this lady who's mastering her craft at home, indoors, more introverted, but Eight of Cups, you see a figure about to like sort of walk to the right, like off into the distance, and she's prepared because she's got baggage on her, she's wearing a woolly hat, she's got some like really high socks on. So it suggests to me that someone's going on a journey, but like a soul journey, because the Eight of Cups is all to do with like your emotions, your feelings, like you said, like your water your water elements right now. And when I think of 8 again, so we got 2 8s and we got 2 pentacles. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Amazing. So it's interesting because we've got 2 8s and we've got 2 pentacles. The 8 of Cups, as we said, is sort of like a soul mission, like a soul journey, because we're associating it with the water element. So it's going to be something that sort of finding something that satisfies the heart's joy, like something that feeds the soul, you know? But what's really, really, really interesting as well is the last card, which is the Page of Pentacles. And when we look at tarot, we've got these things called court cards, and they basically show like a higher meaning or like a major archetype being presented in this card, whether it's in a form of personality or it's someone that you know. But the Page of Pentacles, again, associated with Earth, but this is supposed to sort of celebrate youthful energy and optimism and adventure and childlike wonder. And because you've got a Page of Pentacles, it suggests that like the individual has sort of identified their wants and desires, but now it's on a physical plane. So that's going to be signing up to new events, putting on projects with a community that might be like, I guess you're essentially trying to sort of identify, investigate, experiment with things that are of interest to you, but on something that's coming from a place of love, because you've got the Eight of Pentacles, which this is an individual who's isolated but also honing her craft. You see the transition of Eight of Cups sort of going off on one's journey, following off their desires, and then the Page of Pentacles to sort of end it, to signify establishing a foundation within oneself, that you're able to now present that to one's world. Because you see the figure, she's like holding a pentacle to show like sort of a gift or a present or something of like high status. What do you guys feel from that card? Well, from those cards, like what do you get?
It's because it's interesting, because it's obviously we're in lockdown at the moment, but I think this whole pandemic and this time that we're in right now is very crucial, because it's going to be a very transformative experience for everyone, because it's the uncertainty of like the future and how everything's going to be after this for all of us. It's something to kind of like look forward to, but also kind of be a bit scared about, I think.
I know, I keep thinking this, like, who is the thought like crossed anyone's mind, like, as soon as this is over, like, I need a therapist kind of thing? Do you feel me?
Literally.
Like, it's just like being inside your own brain so much, like, I guess like that's a bit scary, really. Like, how are we all now going to like be super social after this all happens, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a sense of like maybe positive transformative things can happen from isolation. Yeah,
if you allow it, if you access it, if you sort of value exploration of self, you'll be able to access it. And I think that's what the sort of card means, like collectively, because we're talking in response to becoming more inclusive, but also decreasing those levels of like complacency within the systematic like destruction. So yeah, I'm really intrigued and really excited with that message. It gives me hope. It gives me faith, you know.
Yeah, it gives me hope as well.
Amazing. Yeah, so what's your take home message, guys?
Say mine is again something that we touched on earlier. Never assume you're right. Always take on criticism as something positive, and always be mindful of your privileges and how you can overcome them within institutional and societal sense. Yeah.
Amazing. What about you, Hibbs?
How do I even follow that? I mean, I literally agree with that completely. I mean, I would give something, but honestly, like I said before, I'm so blank-minded at the moment that I can't even think about it.
Don't worry. Well, I've got one for us. So my direct message is don't put your 2 pence in with the wrong currency. And you know that famous saying, like, don't put your 2 pence in, etc. It's just a little wordplay on that, because you have people thinking that they can talk to you about matters that don't concern them, that they don't experience, that they can't appreciate. So when I say that, I'm asking people not to provide unsolicited advice on a situation that's not ever going to be their reality. And I think that should be taken by everybody, because like, I'm not going to tell someone who is, I don't know, like deeply religious my views on their religion.
Yeah.
I don't know their currency. I don't know their language. I don't know what experiences have led them to those decisions. So I can just sit here as a guest and learn your information, which I think is really important. And that's my one, really.
If you don't agree, like you can still sit there and just listen to them. It's not
exactly.
It's not a matter of agreeing or not. It's a matter of listening to one another. And I feel like people, even if they like don't agree with it, they'd rather not listen to it, which is like you're not really having a dialogue. You're just going back and forth.
No, definitely.
I'd say, like, listen before you state your opinion and speak. But yeah.
Amazing.
I think what mine is going to be is don't be loud and wrong.
Yes,
and
tell them. Oh, amazing. Well, I'm so happy. Like, I've honestly had such an amazing time speaking to you guys.
It's been so fun.
Thank you for having us on.
Yeah,
no, honestly, thank you for coming on. Like, I wanted to do this podcast with you guys for so long. I think we spoke about so much. We spoke about complacency and discrimination. We talked about race. We talked about identity. Like, all the isms. All the isms. Amazing. Well, would you guys like to plug in your socials? So if anybody wants to find you from listening to this podcast.
You can follow me on Insta, which is at hob.s.
Yeah, and my Instagram is at Ella666Jo, and my collective's Instagram is at Studio Scum, both on Instagram.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode. My name is Sarah, and this has been DM Talks. Amazing. Bye.
Love you so much. See you
later. Bye.